Yeah, it's interesting, Robert. The on the next slide, we've done a little bit of a graphic to indicate, how these identities, how your digital DNA today has to have, certain components to it in order for it to be trusted, as you said, by regulators, by, consumers across industries. Compliance is a big issue. We'll talk about CCPA, GDPR, and other things in a couple of slides. But at the end of the day, what's very interesting, in the digital world, as it's juxtaposed against the physical world, is in the physical world, there's a hierarchy of identity, right? And if I show up at TSA with a passport, that's appropriate. At the other end of identities, maybe my New York City library card. And if I show up at the library with a passport, it's an accepted form of identity. It's a little bit weird, but okay, it's your passport.
Yeah.
If I show up at TSA with my library card, I'm going to go to the secondary inspection stage because they're going to go, what is this, right? Each of them are informed by the transaction, and the transaction dictates which identity can be relied on. And more importantly, the transaction indicates a trust in the issuer. So in our case, the US State Department issues our identity. And at the bottom end, the New York City Library issues their identity. The problem online, as you indicated, is that it's lacking context and trust, because in the online world, as you'll see from this next graphic, we have multiple identities. In real life, I'm Frank Teruel. I have one identity. I work at Adara. I do certain things. What I care to share about myself and what you know about me is what I share. In the online world, you know nothing about me, as you said. And so I have a work email, for example. I have my Santa Clara University email. I teach there in the business school. I have a personal email. I've got my Xfinity ISP, my spam, you name it. All of us have numbers of accounts, and each of them transact, differently online. And so your point of, unifying, or as we call it at Adara, harmonizing these identities is critical from two perspectives. One, in the world where a harmonized identity exists, you have a better idea if any one of the identities has been compromised, because any one that's compromised weakens the chain. But more importantly, harmonizing the identities helps me personalize. If I understand, Frank's behavior across these multiple different identities interacting online, I can create a better view of Frank in terms of what my expectations are and what Frank expects to get from me. Robert, a great example, back when we could fly, although there are limited flights today, but back when the world was open, I would always, chuckle. I'd get on, you name your carrier, American, United, JetBlue, doesn't matter. And I would, fly across country, and I had some certain dietary restrictions. And it always struck me as odd that every single time I booked a flight, they knew that I wanted an aisle seat. They knew where I liked to sit on the airplane, but I always had to enter my dietary restrictions every single time. And the problem with it was that by doing so, oftentimes they never got it on time. They messed it up. And so I'd go, fly across country mealless, or into the UK or something without a meal. It's interesting to me that personalized experience, that little touch, as you said, customers want to be recognized. And I think the only way to really do that and provide true personalization is to harmonize these digital personas that we have into one trusted identity, and have that identity have the scale, as you indicated earlier, to be able to cross multiple industries. And I think that becomes an even greater challenge when you think of the way identities are built today. If you look at the next slide.